Welcome to Monday Returns. This is where I recap weekly performance from the ETF universe. Last week overall in the markets was kind of an uneven week. NASDQ was down over 3%, but then international was up a little bit. Dow Jones was up a little bit. As you can see in individual names, kind of a unique week in returns. A lot of Chinese-focused healthcare indexes did well. Lots of areas within the China funds or China-focused funds are all over the top 12 this week. So it was like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 funds out of 12 are specifically based on China, and there were some other international funds in there as well. Some of the income funds from last week, or the REITs from real estate from last week that were down, were up this week, so a nice little bounce for them. On the downside, a little bit more mixed, although you can see at the bottom here, the cannabis funds that did really well a couple of weeks ago kind of gave back all those returns and were the leaders on the downside. So let's jump into a couple of these. Cure was the leader on the week. Again, a China healthcare index based on the last month. I mean, it's done really well from a performance standpoint, up 10%. Obviously, a lot of that was just within last week or the last year. Much like everything else. It's not quite as bad, but it's down 41%. So again, a fund that's been beat up pretty bad, kind of a bounce off the bottom over the last month. But that's kind of what you see from week to week is some of these funds that have big bounces that are down quite a bit on the year. Another one of the funds that we're leading this week, again, another Chinese focused fund, up 4% over the last month. Zoom out a little bit, and again, it's also down quite a bit. Again, coming off these lows is where you see these bounces, and from week to week is where you see those types of funds doing well. On the downside, this is one of the cannabis funds that obviously see here had a great week a couple 2-3 weeks ago. And since then has promptly given back all those returns plus some. So again, even with a huge bounce, down 17% over the last month. This fund is somewhat unique, and this is where you really have to watch what you're paying for. So this is a cannabis-focused fund, expense ratio of 80 basis points, which is not cheap. But if you break down of what it's actually holding, it has 3 holdings. So why would I pay 80 basis points when I can go and buy these 3 holdings for free? Doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. And this fund, obviously, from a performance standpoint, also hasn't done well. And the names within these funds have not done well either. And so just kind of an interesting mix. Again, not all ETFs are created equal. Definitely something to keep your eye on when you're going into a certain sector or one of these really sector-focused funds. Is what is it actually holding? With this particular one, it's not holding much. MSOS is another one of these cannabis funds that didn't do well on the week. Unlike the other one, this one has a few more holdings, but again, still only 8 holdings. So depending on what you're doing, if you're in one of these that are 35, 36% of this fund, week to week, that is going to drive your performance in the particular fund. Now, depending on what you're trying to get out of it, maybe that's exactly what you want. But when it comes to diversifying, even within a sector, you really have to pull back and look and say, okay, what is under here? Because you may not be getting what you think you are, especially if you're just looking at the name and think I'm getting a cannabis fund. So just a heads up on those types of things. And as you can see, you want to protect yourself from 18% declines or even, 20% jumps, because it probably tells you it doesn't have a whole lot of evaluation that is correct on that. So anyway, from week to week, this is what I'm trying to do, is give you some insight to what's happening, what's doing well, what's not doing well. This week, obviously, China-focused funds where we're to be. Where you didn't want to be was in the cannabis funds. Again, got beat up pretty good and gave back all the returns from a few weeks ago. So I hope this was helpful. We'll see y'all on Friday, and y'all have a good week.